Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors Land Use and Transportation Committee meeting for Monday, May 15th, 2017. My name is Mark Farrell. I'll be chairing this committee. I am joined by our committee vice chair, Supervisor Aaron Peskin, as well as Supervisor Katie Tang. I want to thank Maya Hernandez and Phil Jackson from SFGTV for covering the meeting today, as well as clerk of our committee, Elisa Samara. Madam Clerk, do we have any announcements?
Yes, please make sure to silence all cell phones and electronic devices. Completed speaker cards and copies of any documents to be included as part of the file should be submitted to the clerk. Items acted upon today will appear on the May 23rd Board of Supervisors agenda unless otherwise stated. Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, we're going to call item number 1, but I just want to make sure for those of you in the listening audience today, there is an intent after public comment, of course, to continue items number 2 and 3 until next week. So for those of you here to speak on those items, I want to make sure to let everyone know that ahead of time in case you want to save your comments until then. That being said, Madam Clerk, could you call item number 1? Item number 1 is an ordinance amending ordinance number 1061 entitled Regulating the Width of Sidewalks to narrow the sidewalk width along a portion of Mission Street from 21 feet to 15 feet and making appropriate findings. Okay, thank you very much. So with item number 1, do we have any further presentations that need to be made? Okay, I perhaps MTA could come up real quick. I know it was continued to do some further outreach. I just want to make sure that we have it on the record how we're doing.
Afternoon, Supervisors. Sean Kennedy, SFMTA. Appreciate the opportunity to follow up with you all. You had requested last time that we brief your staff on more specifics on this project, so we did that last week. We also met with Supervisor Ronan. We appreciate her time, and we went back out. She asked us that we reconnect with the businesses right at 22nd there to make sure they were aware of the proposal, and we did that. We talked to about 11 businesses right there, and they were all okay with this. So as far as we know, she's good with moving forward with this item.
Okay. Thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions or comments? Supervisor Peskin? No? Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Anybody wish to comment on item number 1? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Colleagues, can I entertain a motion to move this item forward?
I'll make a motion to send forth the item with positive recommendation to the full board.
Motion by Supervisor Tang, and we can take that without objection. Okay, Madam Clerk, and colleagues, items number 2 and 3, unless there's objections, and Supervisor Peskin, since you were named one on there, I'd like to call them together since we're continuing them. So, Madam Clerk, with that, would you call items 2 and 3 together, please?
Yes, item numbers 2 and 3 are ordinances amending the planning code to revise the amount for the inclusionary affordable housing fee and the on-site and off-site affordable housing alternatives and making appropriate findings. Additionally, item number 2 requires the minimum dwelling unit mix in all residential districts. And item number 3 adds reporting requirements for density bonus projects.
Okay, thank you very much. The sponsor of one of these items, Supervisor Safai, has joined us, and Supervisor Peskin is the co-sponsor of another one. Again, I'd like to inform members of the public that there is an intent to continue both items number 2 and 3 for 1 week after public comment on these items. So we will not be, the intent is not to vote on them today. So I want to make sure people manage their own speaking times and times that they spend here in the board chambers. With that, Supervisor Peskin?
Thank you, Chair Farrell and Supervisors Tang and Safai. I just wanted to report that last week and through this weekend there have been productive discussions between the authors of the 2 pieces of legislation that are before us today, and I am optimistic that a week from today we will have a final consensual version of the 2 items that we can hear subsequently on the 23rd of May at the full Board of Supervisors. And I want to thank Supervisors Safai and Breed and Kim for spending many hours, as well as with members of the community and stakeholders, in crafting what I think will be a consensus package over the next week.
Thank you, Supervisor Peskin. Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Supervisor Tang and Peskin. I just want to concur with what Supervisor Peskin said. We have been negotiating aggressively. We are working toward a final solution We have some really strong elements in this proposal that's going to be good for all San Franciscans, and we've made a lot of progress over the last 2.5 weeks. So this continuance will allow us to have further conversations, and we think that we have a really strong probability of having a wonderful consensus deal for all San Franciscans. So I know that we do have to take public comment, but anyone here to comment on this item, we will have this back again the following Monday. So either way is fine, but next Monday would be preferable.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Safai. With that, seeing no other comments, again, we will save our discussion until next week on this item. Anybody wish to speak on items 2 or 3 for public comment? I see a number of speaker cards. We can call them, but please line up against the far wall. Everyone's going to have 2 minutes, and let's get this going. Thank you. Come on up, sir.
Right here?
Yep.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you, supervisors. Peskin, Farrell, Tang, and Safai. My name is Rufus Watkins, and I'm with United Neighbors, and I want to comment on this proposal by Supervisor Safai. And my instinct is to delay the model. The model is flawed, number one, and you need to go back to the drawing board on this. Is robbing Peter to pay Paul, and I don't want to waste your time on this, but again, it's a flawed document, and again, I'm with United Neighbors, and unfortunately, living in San Francisco, I see this pattern every single time that people, the real estate department, as well as real estate developers and so on and so forth, that comes to hat in hand to City Hall and ask for favors. And I personally disagree with this. So again, we can have all the political vocabulary you want on this, but it's hat in hand, a bailout for the real estate developers. And again, we need to go back to a good model for the city of San Francisco. And again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Next speaker.
Hi, Supervisors Tang, O'Farrell, and Peskin. My name is Deborah Benedict. I live at 75 Door in a low-income building that was built so that people who are not at the highest income levels can afford to live in the city of San Francisco. And I happen to know that there's quite a few people that are still unhoused in my neighborhood that could use low-income housing. So, in fact, the idea that several tiers and the the reduction of low-income housing is with the other proposal, and I'm very much interested in seeing that this city includes people of a wide variety of income levels and not just the super wealthy. Obviously, when we had the increase in per square footage, thanks to Scott Wiener's proposal about micro units, that created another difficulty for people that were looking to rent units in the city, because it meant that developers could make even more gross profits through renting out these units at what would be market rate. So I would really love to see this Land Use Committee present to the other supervisors that, in fact, we want to keep low-income people in the city as well as middle and high-income people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Can I get the overhead?
Yep, you're on.
SFT TV handles that, sir.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Dennis, it'll happen on its own, hopefully.
Okay, well,
SFT TV, if you could zoom in.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dennis Moscofian. I'm a native San Franciscan, a longtime labor member, a member of the Labor Council for decades, and retired as president of the union that published the Chronicle and Examiner. I want to just tell you two things. One is, I look at this chart that somebody in my neighborhood created, and it shows that the that the level of affordability is actually going down by focusing, and I can't tell if you all see it, I'll give you a copy, but it actually goes down from 25%, which is what Prop C was, to 18%, and the reduction is all in the lower end. That brings me to my next point. As a lifelong labor member and a union member and a journeyman, I never made more than $50,000 a year off my job. And most of the members of my union, only those who worked at a high level of overtime would make close to 60 or 65,000. And this was up through the early years of 2002. And I can tell you that the majority of workers that I know of in San Francisco, they don't make $85,000, $90,000, $100,000. Not blue-collar workers, not the kind of production workers that I live with, that I've known, that I represented. The next thing I wanted to say was, if you look at this chart, what it looks like is that the inclusionary measure would end up giving 82% of the housing to the market rate. 82% is not what either Kaiser Marston pointed out or what the people of San Francisco know we need. We need much more, a much higher level of affordability, and this doesn't do it. And the final point I wanted to make is I'm concerned that the distinction between Home SF and inclusionary suggests that maybe one of them, Home SF, may undermine this inclusionary effort, and I would hope that you guys would bring that together and make sure that it doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Teresa Flandrick from Senior and Disability Action, and I'm here to say that I am in support of the Kim and Peskin legislation because it does give the best and closest numbers to Prop C that we voted by a supermajority on, and as well as we voted against Prop U, which was the developer's giveaway. And that's what the Safai, Breed, Ed Lee, and Ms. Tang proposal is about. So we ask that you include the lower income, which means including our workforce here in San Francisco. And that is the proposal that we would support because it includes everyone and not excluding the lower income. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes, Charles Minster, a member of Senior and Disability Action, longtime trade unionist. I would like to second what Brother Moscovian said. Certainly, as a trade union, a worker here in this city, and the laborers' union and other unions, I was not making.
Sir, hold on 1 second. Everybody who's in the chambers, please. We're trying to conduct business, so please, no speaking in the chambers. You can take it outside, no problem. Again, for those of you who are all piling in, especially with those with your stickers on who want to speak, we are not going to be voting on these items today. So we're going to have public comment next week for these items. So I want to be very clear about that. But also, please, more than anything, be respectful to the people who are speaking on the microphone. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, sir. Please go forward.
Yes. Well, again, I second what Brother Moscovian was saying. Certainly, as a trade union worker in this city, I wasn't making over $45,000 a year. And now, recent published figures said that you need $105,000 in this area, a family of two, to make it. And what this city is becoming is like London and Paris, that even the rich in this city couldn't afford some of the buildings in central London or Paris. And the city fathers, of course, they love these condos that are going up because it increases their tax base to continue to feed the bureaucracy. But it's not, you're not. I'd like to call on the trade union people in this area right now to start fighting for wages that'll meet the cost of living in this city. They should demand higher. The idea that a minimum wage of $16 an hour, that won't even get you a room in a single room occupancy hotel downtown. So how the hell can you expect to be? And if there's any complaints in this town at people wanting more money and better working conditions, when you have to live under the stress that this town creates because of the cost. And this body here is not doing anything to eliminate that. It's continually looking to see big money come into this town, build housing, build the tax base, and that's it. And so you're not going to have you're going to have a city where the people that do all the work, because it's all service now, there's no more manufacturing in this city, they're going to have to come in from out of town. You're going to pay our transportation? I doubt it.
Thanks very much. Next speaker, please.
Đại家好，我係代表社區住客聯會嘅梁永浩。我哋今日有60幾個會員，都係低收入嘅華裔居民前來呢個區，呢個係聽證會嘅，要求委員會反對通過包容性可負擔房屋嘅調整至18%嘅議案。
Good afternoon, supervisors. I'm Wing Ho, Mr. Liang, president of CTA. We have over 60 members here attending the committee meeting today, and CTA here are strongly opposing the proposal to the lower inclusionary housing requirement to 18%.
我相信今日出席嘅居民都希望有一個負擔得起嘅家。既然喺舊年嘅6月3喺三藩市嘅選民通過嘅司提案，要求發展商提供25%嘅包容性單位，為何市參事會要跟居民嘅意願違背而辭呢？
I know that many of us here today just want a stable home that we can afford, and voters in San Francisco have already spoken last year in passing Prop C with high numbers, calling developers to put more effort in providing attainable housing for residents. So why is it that our politicians are creating legislations that does not answer the call for residents?
我跟我太太都係低收入人士，面對川普房屋資源剝削減少。 我哋都感覺憂慮，將來三藩市可負擔房屋嘅短缺情況會更加嚴重。包容性房屋係我哋最後嘅防線，所以住客會堅決反對削減比例嘅議案。
My wife and I are both of very limited income, and President Trump planned to cut funding for housing and extremely worrisome to families like mine who are concerned about the future of new affordable housing in the city. Inclusionary unit may be the last line for our communities, which is why CTA is standing strongly against lowering the requirement to 18%.
呢個話題喺本市激烈嘅爭議下討論，證明三藩市居民對可負擔房屋 多麼渴求，為什麼市參事還要將包容性可負擔房屋嘅要求重新降低到18%？如果係為咗平衡發展商嘅需要，呢樣做就係將發展商嘅利益放在居民嘅需要嘅前面。
The debate that sparked from this legislation really demonstrates that residents are crying out loud for solutions to more affordable housing. City Hall needs to look for solutions that expand opportunities for everybody and put our people's need ahead of developers' concerns.
市政府工作係應該為所有低收入階層嘅人做到提供更多可負擔房屋嘅機會，而不係 將發展商嘅利潤先行，所以我哋強烈反對將包容性可負擔房屋比例調低到18%，並要求要將最低收入嘅比例要求提高到12%或以上，令每一個階層居民可以有更多機會享受安居樂業。
CTA stands strongly against this proposal, and we demand that the lowest inclusionary bracket be raised to at least 12% or more. We want inclusionary housing for all income and more opportunities for all levels, and we know that this Board of Supervisors will be able to work out something. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to be at this meeting, this hearing. My name is Kathy Lipscomb, and I work with Senior Disability Action as well as the Anti-Displacement Coalition. In preparing for the meeting, I looked at the housing element on the Planning Department's website. It says that most of the job openings between 2010 and 2020 will be in low to medium skilled jobs, such as wait staff, retail sales, personal care aide, janitors, cleaners, food prep workers, with approximate annual pay between $22,000 to $26,000. The city housing element of 2014 admits San Francisco did not meet its fair share of regional housing needs production, especially for low and moderate income. And then they go on and comment about their commitment and their passion for low and moderate income housing. It's noteworthy that thousands of San Franciscans worked and voted for Prop C last November, which won by a huge majority. People overwhelmingly voted for raising inclusionary standards by setting aside 15% of new housing for low, moderate income households and 10% for the middle steps. Life is just harder for people earning $30,000 a year than it is for folks who are earning $80,000, $90,000, and $100,000, although $100,000 is not what it used to be, admittedly. Reversing the formula now is in defiance of Prop C, of the Prop C voters and your own housing element. Moreover, this past November, a developer's proposal, Prop U, remember PU, would have overturned Prop C to reset housing levels to better benefit middle income at the expense of lower income. It was overwhelmingly rejected. My memory is that the San Francisco Chronicle even came out against it. This persistent reformulation is the politics of division.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello， 各位參事，中午好。我叫譚炳榮，我係住喺 Chinatown。我今日嚟咧，今日嘅目的係希望大家能夠支持可負擔房屋個低收入申請。
Hello, supervisors. My name is Bing Rong Tan. I'm here to represent SRO families in Chinatown. I'm here today to ask for your support to protect affordable housing opportunities for all low-income families like ourselves.
我住喺散房係唔容易，因為我哋住喺散房嘅，即係個比例好窄。我希望第四參事喺參事會咧能夠提多啲可負擔嘅房屋。Sorry,
It is not easy to live in an SRO, so I hope supervisors could protect and help low-income families like us.
過去幾年不斷租金上漲，由600蚊依家提到有超1倍，1400蚊。
In the last few years, rent has gone up tremendously. An SRO unit used to cost $600. Now it costs $1,400.
我想有一日能夠搬親我哋居住嘅散房，但係都唔係好容易。
I hope that one day me and my family can move out of SRO, but it's very difficult.
但呢個夢想可能永遠會實現唔到，因為依家嘅土地同埋租金嘅上漲係比遠遠想像得快。
But it's a very undoable dream for us to move out of SRO.
我唯一希望能夠市府可能建設一啲可負擔嘅房屋，俾我哋低收入嘅人群，因為我有申請過好多可負擔房屋，但係我遞咗申請表，但係始終都申請唔到，因為係少得滯。
Our only hope is to get into low-income affordable housing, but I've turned in many applications, but it never gotten back to me.
但我哋知道温世輝提出嗰個議員係剝削咗我哋想擁有低收入嘅房屋個權利，我哋反對佢哋嘅提案。
Now we hear that Supervisor Safai's proposal would cut back affordable housing for low-income families like us. This would take away opportunity for SRO family. We don't think it's fair.
我希望能夠大家市參事能夠啟用配司金同埋金晶賢設三次提出嘅提案，可以增加多啲可負擔房屋。Thank you.
So I'm here to support the proposal by Supervisor Kim and Supervisor Peskin. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Tony Robles. I am with an organization called Senior and Disability Action. When the voters of San Francisco voted to pass Proposition C by a majority, it was a directive, a message that the people recognized the severe inaffordability, or affordability rather, crisis plaguing our city's housing. For too long, market rate luxury housing and housing developers have flourished, while low-income residents, seniors, and people with disabilities have lived in a climate of fear and uncertainty in a city whose policies and actions suggests that they are no longer wanted. Propositions P and U on last November's ballot was yet another attempt by real estate developers to milk every cent out of the city, oblivious to the effects of such policies. The Peskin-Kim proposal is like a first down in football. It is a game, and the competing proposal moves the polls, taking away that gain by penalizing low-income people. An imposed penalty, undeserved, that is simply, in our view, wrong, and a capitulation to developers and their voracious hunger for profit at all costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi there. I'm Darby, and I'm a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, and I'm here to say that I support the continuance. We need to go back to the drawing board. The proposal put forth by Supervisors Safai, Breed, and Tang just does not come close to meeting the needs of San Francisco's broad range of household incomes, family sizes, and neighborhood conditions. Instead, it only prioritizes the lucrativeness of developments for for-profit developers. So I'm asking you to please listen to your voters and not developers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Chair, before the next speaker, may I remind members of the public there are audible sounds of support are prohibited in this chamber. You may use your supportive fingers. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm Jen with Neighbors United, a District 5 neighborhood group, and I support the continuance. We really have to send this thing back to the drawing board. Cutting low-income housing by any fraction of a percent is cruel and it's immoral in San Francisco today. I can't see any reason in the entire world why we would ever have housing that is not considered affordable for people. And I don't think that we should be guaranteeing that developers get mega rich off of developments. They're still going to have money. They're still going to build in San Francisco. It's San Francisco. It's not the middle of nowhere. And we need a lot more low-income housing now. This is not a room full of people who are like totally cool with the amount of low-income housing there is. And we elected you guys, so you work for us, and we want more low-income housing. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Talofa, my name is Sally Manietoa Sam Ripley from the District 10, and I'm with ACE, been here for over 30 years from Samoa, and it was 40 years ago, it was a different story. Fast forward, San Francisco is the highest cost in the world, very tiny. And I'm opposed to the proposal for extremely low income. We have some fancy word with affordable housing. Affordable housing is only 10 if you build 100. Let me repeat that. 10 out of 100, 200,000 that competing with people with very low income. As a disabled, I'm supposed to be going to the housing to pick up my application, but I came here because it's important and it's my right as a citizen. And the other question, what legacy, whoever put up this, that you want to remember of? Is it Safari, Supervisor Safari, or I'm Reed and 10. So please reconsider. Don't, you have to vote from your heart because we put you where you at. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Dale. I'm a born and raised San Franciscan. I live here. My family lives here, so this issue directly affects me and everybody that I know. I'm a part of the Democratic Socialists of America. I also volunteer with the Coalition on Homelessness and At the Crossroads. I just wanted to say that I am in support of a continuance in the discussion over this legislation. As it stands right now, it is completely fundamentally flawed and broken. Last June, San Franciscans voted to increase the amount of affordable housing and new developments. We're urging you today to follow the will of your base, the will of your voters, something that we all collectively voted on, and to meet the affordable housing needs of San Francisco, not just for-profit developers. As I said, as it stands, it does not meet the broad range of needs for household incomes, family sizes, neighborhood conditions. It only puts more wealth within the pockets of the rich. And the reality is that if we really want San Francisco to be a true sanctuary city, to stand against this current administration, we need to be prioritizing the most vulnerable, the true working class individuals, low and middle incomes, and not taking into account developers and their need to create more assets for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, Renee Curran, 20-year resident of San Francisco, Neighbors United. I feel that San Francisco is at a crossroads. We must decide our priorities. Do we want to choose diversity or the big money interests that increasingly influence our elections and the state of the city? The Board of Supervisors and Mayor announced the intent to remain a sanctuary city with great fanfare. But how can we be a sanctuary city when immigrants, both documented and undocumented, are being pushed out in alarming numbers by gentrification? Many of us lament the effects of the 1960s and 70s redevelopment that pushed out the vast majority of African Americans. This proposal, as it stands, is more of that. While it does not propose bulldozing existing homes, the effect is the same, albeit slower. Those who understand history know it's the same old story over and over. As the cost of land goes up, solely due to speculation, those who profit see low and middle income renters as obstacles to more of those profits, not as human beings with rights. That is why I'm asking the board to create and enforce the greatest protections for low and middle income people who are the heart of this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is David Wu, and I was born and raised in the Haight, and I still live over there. The city and its elected officials need to be fighting for the highest possible levels of affordable housing, not working to actively gut and cut those levels and rates in order to maximize profits for private interests and developers, while at the same time low-income residents and people of color continue to be kicked out of the city. Thank you.
Thanks. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Lori Lederman. The unprecedented rate of new market rate construction has far outstripped what is needed, and yet it has not made housing more affordable. To continue doing more of the same and expect a different result is, well, as often is referenced, insanity. We are not just producing growth, we are producing displacement, and we are repeating the mistakes of the past by forcing that displacement on our communities of color who are disproportionately low income. Neighborhood AMI should be adopted in the final legislation as a tool to help mitigate this shameful impact. We all agree that we need to produce more affordable housing, but for whom and to what end? Reducing the percentage of BMR units for low-income residents, as proposed by Safai Breed Tang, lowers the potential number of units for our current population with the fewest options. If 71% of our homeless population is from San Francisco, including homeless families, it is apparent that those folks did not have the option to move to the far reaches of the Bay Area, where housing is nominally cheaper. And even if they could, while we applaud the environmental impacts of higher density, let's not forget that our cities depend heavily on low-wage workers who are pushed further to the fringes and must travel long distances to get to work, often by car, or to live in their cars as a next-to-last resort. The Safai Breed Tang proposal would cut the previous allocation for low income in half, If this body exchanges low-income BMR requirements for middle-income requirements, we will be raising the affordability floor, and in so doing, we displace more people at the lower end of the spectrum. As the floor literally gets pulled out from under them, the median income floor keeps going up because there are fewer people left at the lower end. This becomes a self-perpetuating gentrification policy. And let's not pretend, as we sometimes hear from planning, that the federal government is going to provide low-income housing. Certainly not this federal government. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, my name's Murray Sorensen. I'm with Calle 24. Let's call the Breed, Tang, Safai, Lee proposals for what they are. More profits for the developers, and most likely more campaign contributions for the sponsors. It's less housing for really those who need it. Luxury housing is the only housing being built right now, and it has reached the glut stage. New buildings are sitting empty because the rents and the purchase prices are way too high. The Quran had an article a couple weeks ago about the empty buildings, and what they've done is they've turned to a rental business that will furnish the units and rent each bed out. If that doesn't talk about the glut, I don't know what does. We need more truly affordable housing. We had a planning commissioner who said, luckily he's not there anymore, who said at one of the hearings, maybe the little people need to live in Oakland. Well, that was the most insulting thing I think I'd ever heard. Let's ignore the fact that most likely that little person that's going to live in Oakland is not going to make much more than minimum wage. So he's going to spend probably 2 hours working, paying to go back and forth. We need more affordable housing. We have it on the books. We don't need it compromised anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Peter Papadopoulos. I'm here today on behalf of the Mission Economic Development Agency. And I just want to touch on a few points that we would like you to hear while you continue to deliberate. The first is a concern about looking at those home ownership numbers and making sure that we aren't pulling ownership opportunity out of reach of our lowest income residents, those who already have a tenuous opportunity for home ownership, particularly when we're hearing concerns expressed about the banking and financial implications of potentially raising this level. This 18% number, I want to reiterate, it's a flawed number. It's based on an idea that we can't, under any circumstances, move away from the highest possible proliferation of housing. While that's a valuable goal, we don't move towards the highest proliferation of lots of things in the city. There are certain zones that don't allow, as someone once said here, trash incinerators next to elementary schools. There's all sorts of limitations we do that say careful and thoughtful and successful comes first, and even under the best of circumstances, speed might always be second. I think the voters were clear with their request for 25% and did not intend for middle-income and low-income workers here to be pitted against each other. I would like to say that we would like explored the sensitive neighborhoods option. We think it's true that maybe all neighborhoods are not the same. And in looking at that, I think we also want to hear the concerns of some of our neighborhoods that maybe aren't quite qualifying in terms of these sensitive neighborhoods, and think about what kind of threshold system could be built in based on AMIs and such to allow a moving threshold of higher inclusionary protection. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Next speaker, please.
Jennifer with the Tenants Union. So something that's getting lost in this debate is that inclusionary housing also injects massive luxury developments into sensitive areas, which has spillover effects like rising rents and evictions. Instead of maximizing concessions from very lucrative projects, we have a proposal to actually cut the requirements for Prop C and redefine affordability in a giant giveaway to developers. I was delighted to hear that today the mayor was going to hold a press conference in support of the Breed Safai Tang legislation, because this just makes it clearer how this board should vote. You can either be on the side of a failed mayor, or you can be on the side of those who are protecting those most vulnerable from the damaging effects of runaway profit. In the last 6 years, we have seen thousands evicted and rents have risen to insane amounts. We have seen Airbnb operate unregulated in the city as the mayor vetoes regulations. We have seen corporations courted and shady yacht races held while City Hall turns its back on the working class people of San Francisco. We have seen this mayor's approval ratings plummet. So now we're supposed to buy this next failed policy by the mayor. The tenants union has a very long memory of City Hall. We remember how the board votes and whether their choices benefit tenants or wealthy corporations. And we only support candidates who vote to protect tenants from displacement. Something you may not know about me is that I really enjoy door knocking. So I look forward to 2018 Saturdays.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving us this time to speak. My name is Trevor Martin. I am the treasurer for the San Francisco Bernie-Crats and District 11 resident. I understand that the vote has been continued until next week, but in case you didn't notice, there were over 100 voters out there today, earlier, on the steps of City Hall, rallying in opposition to this bill. And we all took time out of our busy lives to come down here and speak our mind today, so that's exactly what we'll do. And you can sure as hell bet that the majority of us will be back next week. Because we all voted for Proposition C. We demand 25% affordable housing, and we will accept no less. We will not accept a $60 million annual giveaway to developers, and we will not accept housing for some at the cost of affordable housing for all. So we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Julian Ball. I'm an organizer with the community group ACE. You've heard today from one of our members who's advocating for low income housing. Actually, our membership's all over the map. We have folks who are doubling up in Section 8 housing because they can't find Section 8 housing of their own. We have 2-teacher households who also are struggling with the affordability crisis. And while the Safai Breed Tang proposal is being sold as a solution for those middle-income families, it absolutely is not. We campaign to create the first moderate income pool of housing to pass Prop C and also increase low-income housing opportunities for our members when we pass Prop C. Everybody on this board, on down, says they support sanctuary city policies. Everyone. But as somebody says, you can't be a sanctuary city when you're not protecting folks from displacement. What is deportation except an extreme form of displacement? So what we need are solutions like strong rent control. We need much more massive investment in solutions that keep people here, from rental subsidies to help to write down troubled loans, to buy back foreclosed loans and protect ourselves from the banks, to universal legal defense against evictions. We also, more affordable housing is certainly part of the solution, but you can't solve the housing crisis by giving lots of money away to developers. You can choose, is this going to be a sanctuary city for people, or is it going to be a sanctuary city for developers? It can't be both.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
I second that emotion. I'm Iris Biblowitz, a retired nurse in the Mission for 40 years, a renter. After the November election, as other people have said, the Board of Supervisors and the mayor came together to emphasize that San Francisco is a beacon of light and a sanctuary city For this to ring true, we have to expand the definition of sanctuary city to include protection for low-income, long-time residents, especially Latino and African American families, seniors, people with disabilities, the people who've suffered the most from displacement and gentrification. The city must fight against deportation and evictions. Rather than increase our current inclusionary affordable housing program for low-income families, the proposals by Supervisors Breed, Tang, and Safai cuts it in half, thus increasing the injustice of ever-growing income inequality in San Francisco and the increased risk of displacement. 57% of one-person households and 39% of two-person households in San Francisco have inadequate incomes for a basic standard of living, food, housing, school supplies, medications. These are some of the people who will lose their chance for affordable housing if this proposal passes. If anything, the Peskin-Kim proposal doesn't go far enough for more affordable housing and no more luxury housing. The city must stand up to developers and insist on affordable housing for all who need it. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Darnell Boyd, and I want to talk about inclusionary because a lot of times that word include, it means include, but it don't seem like it includes me in anything. I feel like Get Smart when he trying to go back into the elevator and the door slammed into his face. We need more affordable housing, and I mean low-income housing. That's what we need. And then one thing I want to say is this: the voters voted for 25%. And then want to go back. The city want to go back and negotiate down to 18. 18% is just like sipping a cup of chicken stock. 25% is just like going to a Woodstock concert and Grateful Dead up there playing. It's a difference. We need more low-cost housing for us. And then another thing about rich people got egos. If you kick all the poor people out, then who you going to blame everything on? So you actually need us here, because after we leave, who y'all going to blame everything on? I mean, like the homeless people, we get blamed for everything. Now, once we gone, and once low-income people gone, then who they going to blame all the problems on? Each other? So y'all need to keep us here. Give us that 25%, let us stay here, and then you get to blame everything on us. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is C.W. Johnson. I'm with the Mental Health Association of San Francisco. The thing I find very interesting is that this city is a city of diversity. People come from all over the world because we have that type of diversity. They feel safe here. They feel welcome here. How can they feel safe and welcome when the diversity is being pushed out of this city? We need to think about also the mental health of being affordable housing. If you have a place to live, you can start working on recovering from your mental health issues or whatever issues you may have. With good affordable housing or with good low-income housing comes good mental health. So really need to think on that when you're going back, I want you to be like the Warriors. The Warriors last night were 25 points down. We're 25% down. I want you to be my Warriors and bring affordable housing back to where it originally was. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Eric Marcoux. I'm with Tenderloin People's Congress. Once again, the moneyed interests in the city are doing what they can do to perform an end around to circumvent the will of the voters of San Francisco. I'm a fourth-generation native, and I'm the last one of my family here, and I'm holding on by my fingernails. To raise the AMI level to the level proposed by Mayor Lee, Supervisors Safai, Breed, and Tang is an abomination. To make upper income levels eligible for assistance at the expense of lower income people is to further complicate and traumatize their lives, and to enable people who can afford to commute, they have cars or they can afford them. For one thing, these people, it's just harder for them to deal with having to live outside the city. The minority population, particularly African Americans, is rapidly dwindling while the city is rapidly becoming wealthier and wider. This is not the city I grew up in. Please support the Kim Peskin proposal and preserve our city's diversity. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharon. I am a member of ACE, and I am a longtime resident of San Francisco and the Mission Bay area. I am appalled at the changes that are happening in our city. As a citizen of San Francisco, I support San Francisco as a sanctuary city. But I hope we can expand that definition to include the disenfranchised. People want to come to our city. They want to flock to our city. They want to live in our city. And the reason they want to live there is because we are so diversified and free-thinking. Well, it's going to get so overrun by wealthy people wanting to live here. Nothing against wealthy people. I'd like to be one myself. But let's have hearts about this. So it'll get so overrun that all the interesting people will be displaced from the city. And like this other fella said, who are they going to blame? So let's be inclusive when we say inclusive. I am against this change in what the citizens of San Francisco voted for in Prop C last year. So go with what was voted for, not for what the wealthy want. Only the wealthy want, apparently. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, supervisors. I'm Marla Knight. I'm co-chair of North Beach Tenants Committee. We formed 3.5 years ago because there were so many evictions in North Beach. We advise and inform people of their rights. 50%, the majority of people who are evicted make under $50,000. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. And then looking to the future, as a teacher at City College, I would have been able to afford affordable housing, but now retired, I'm drop into low income, and I'm not alone in this. San Francisco is an old city. We have 120,000 seniors, and with the baby boomer getting older and older, we're going to have a lot more retirees who can't afford affordable housing. So I think we have to look ahead. I would like to see housing, quite frankly, built by nonprofits. I would like to see us look maybe to Europe because they have some more creative approaches to housing. Anyway, North Beach Tenants Committee supports Supervisors Kim and Peskin's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, Jordan Bickett. I'll just try to keep this brief, so I appreciate the patience. I had up on my phone the Technical Advisory Committee's report that was part of Prop C that shows that upping the inclusionary does harm housing production of both affordable housing and market rate housing. And we are in a desperate shortage. We all feel that, and that's reflected in the high prices, and we can't just keep dialing this up. We have to have rules. We have to have stability where the rules are known, where developments can take place, and that we can really start chipping away at this dire shortage and its resulting crisis. And unfortunately, both of these proposals don't do that. They hurt housing production. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Teresa Imperial. I'm from Bilsor Housing Program, a Veterans Equity Center. The 18%, we all know that it came from the Controller's Analysis report. Unfortunately, there are a lot of reports been out And there's actually one that is that's done by Urban Habitat. It's called Race Inequality and Resegregation of the Bay Area. This is a great report. I wish our city would do an equity analysis report. Even MTC has equity analysis report, which shows of how much poverty has been moved, and also the people of color communities has been moving all around Bay Area, and where has it shifted the most and has decreased the most. So I wish the Control City and the Controls Analysis Report reflected what depends on the population and the poverty that's been happening, that's been increasing and decreasing in some communities. But what does that mean? If that poverty decreases in one community, what that means? Did it go somewhere else? And what kind of community is coming in? So there should be that kind of analysis. And also on top of that, there was an election last year which voted for Prop C that asked for 25%. The one thing that could have been done was to make that the result of that election be more on the equity, on what is depending on the people's need, not on developers' feasibility on what they can build on. That is not a good solution in solving this housing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name's Kathy Burek. I'm a 40-year resident of San Francisco, 38 years part-time teacher at City College, and 19 at USF. And I'm here mostly because I'm concerned about our students and our young people who are turning every room into any space they can rent into a bedroom, except for the kitchen and bathroom. When I first came to the city in the 70s, I could afford to work part-time and go to school. And I really feel our young people who are pursuing a higher education in order to increase their earning power need to be thought about in inclusionary housing. I don't believe we have a general housing crisis. I believe we have an affordable housing crisis. As a teacher at City College, my union, AFT 2121, it's become such a critical issue. We had a housing forum just last week. Already, more than half of our teachers live outside of the city, and I'm concerned that even after working for the city and county as a teacher for all these years, if I ever lose my rent-controlled apartment that I've been in for 31 years, my income will be so low when I stop working, I'm afraid I'll have to leave town. And I've lived most of my life here, and I care passionately about what's happening in the city. And also, public land needs to be used for public good. Any land, any developer that is allowed to put their hands on public land needs to ensure that that housing is for working class, primarily working class and middle income families. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, supervisors. I'm Raphael Mandelman. I'm a City College trustee. Always an honor to follow our extraordinary faculty member, Kathy Burek. We've spent a lot of time these last several years talking about City College's declining enrollment, and I want to thank the board for the work you've done with us to create the Free City College program, which we're hoping will help rebuild that enrollment. But we know that part of what we're struggling with is the fact that San Francisco is changing, and the San Francisco that we've served for these last 8 decades, the middle class and lower income families who have filled our classrooms, are being pushed out of this city. And so are the folks who serve them, who are their staff and their teachers. That's bad for City College, but it's bad for San Francisco. Now, I hear and have heard, and you all hear, that a city that's not growing is dying. And I think that's true. But growth alone does not ensure the health, success, diversity, or vitality of a city. Our future depends on ensuring that our workforce can find housing, that our seniors who made this city can remain in their old age, that children who grew up here can make their families here and remain through their lifetimes if they so choose. San Francisco is a city of neighborhoods, not an ATM for international investors. And so as we grow, and we shall grow, we must dramatically increase our production of housing affordable to all San Franciscans. And unfortunately, The Safai Breed proposal, well-intentioned though it may be, moves us in the wrong direction. It gives away far too much. It does not do nearly enough for the middle-class families it purports to serve, and it does actual harm to poorer families. So I'm glad the conversation is continuing. I wish you good luck. Our collective future depends on what you guys decide, and I'm sure you'll come up with something good for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Jason Henderson, and I'm chair of the Hayes Valley Neighborhood Association's Transportation and Planning Committee. We distributed a letter to all of the supervisors last week. So I just want to say a few things about how we see what this is about. This is about what is the appropriate sweet spot. That's the developer language for what can and cannot be produced, and if you go too high, then nothing will get built. Well, I urge you to consider a little bit of history that these numbers have changed over the years. When we went into this in the early 2000s, we were big proponents of smart growth and reducing vehicle miles traveled and addressing climate change and big proponents of infill density. But we were told that design and zoning changes and upzoning would help bring in more affordable housing to our neighborhood. And we were working in the realm of about 15% on-site and 20% off-site when the plan was passed, but also at the very dense intersection of Market and Market and Van Ness, there's an affordable housing fee, which gets us about 3% higher. So we were already, at the 22, 23% at the densest part of the Market and Octavia plan. So then there was a recession, as everyone knows, and the development community came to us and other people in the city and said, hey, can you waive our fees and can you rethink this whole thing? So the sweet spot changed. This is out of sync. Basically, this the Peskin-Kim version, we should implement this now for the next wave. And I just want to show you real quick a slide of the Van Ness and Market intersection. You're going to have 6, 7, 8.
Thanks very much, sir. Appreciate it. Next speaker, please.
Hi there, my name is Brad Chapin, and I am on the executive board of the Harvey Milk Democratic Club. And I'm really excited to be here because I'm happy that this is being delayed another week. I feel like that you guys must be responding to all of the people that are showing up. This is really amazing. So I feel really lucky to be on the board of the Milk Club, but one of the things that makes me so excited to be on the board of the Milk Club is that I get to honor the person who I look up to the most in this city. His name's Harry Britt. And he's my favorite supervisor San Francisco's ever had. I'm really biased in that, but he was a vice chair of Democratic Socialists of America, and he fought for every progressive housing initiative he possibly could. Here's something he said about domestic partnership, and I feel like this is sort of about all of us. I'm really tired of the battles. I feel like this salmon swimming upstream all the time, bucking the system, fighting for my rights, walking through the neighborhood, always looking over my shoulder that I don't get gay bashed, fighting for AIDS, and fighting for health insurance. I get tired of fighting. I get exhausted. All we want to do is live our life just like you want to live your life and have some people care about us and share and make some sort of difference on this planet so that when we do go, somebody knows we're here, that we had some sort of impact here, had friends, and were loved, the same kind of stuff that everybody else wants. The reason that San Francisco is so much more badass than the Peninsula and North Bay, and maybe not East Bay all the time, but the reason people want to live here is because of people like Harry and because people say, screw for-profit housing. We can do a lot better. We can fight for housing as a public commodity that protects people who actually give the city culture that makes people actually want to live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Durazo from Bill Soro Housing Program. Sorry, I kind of got touched by that speech there because I think we all do kind of walk in other people's shoes. I got into this work because I think I was tired of the hypocrisy that a lot of people kind of put out there, and especially in this discussion right now, I think there's a lot of falsehoods that I really would urge you as supervisors to kind of look into a little bit deeper. One of them is which I believe the mayor's office or OEWD, I'm not sure who, was saying that 7,000 units are going to be available for low-income housing in the future. I was really puzzled by this because there aren't that many BMR units that we can see. We work with all of them. And then when we looked in the numbers, when we asked for like the study to say where are these units going to be coming from, I was surprised to see that almost half of them were from RAD housing projects. These are replacement homes for the public housing. These are promised replacement homes for people spending a third of their income. These are not homes that should be dedicated to saying that that's plenty for everyone else to share. In fact, that's the same hypocrisy that we're dealing with right now, saying that let's reduce 15%, which is right now what the voters voted on, down to 6% for low-income workers. Incredible that this city is talking about this as solving the housing crisis. Incredible that this is something that we actually put out there that's not coming from the Trump administration. It's something that I'm ashamed about, and I think you should all kind of look deeper into these arguments, because this isn't the city that we're looking towards building. This isn't the region that we're trying to create. And what San Francisco does inspires other cities to do just as poorly. So be clear that this is going to impact all of the region when you set those bars and you start changing the way that we're looking at poor and we're looking at those in need.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat, supervisors.
Good afternoon, supervisors.
Ako si Merlina Meneses.
I am Merlina Meneses.
Nag-migrate dito sa US noong 1978.
I migrated to the United States in 1978.
Galing Virginia.
From Virginia.
Nag-transfer kami dito noong 1982.
We transferred here in 1982.
Siyam kami lahat sa family. Ako ang single mom ng 8 bata.
We are 9 members of a family and I'm a single mom of the 8 children.
Nag-aaral sila sa City College ages 28 to 22.
My children go to City College ages from 22 to 28.
Kailangan namin ng low-income housing, affordable housing.
We need more affordable housing.
Kasi matagal na kaming nag-aantay ng mga bata na nag-apply ako dyan nung baby pa sila, hanggang ngayon wala pa rin kaming tulong.
We have been applying for affordable housing since my kids were young, and until now we still haven't been selected.
Sana naman, I wish sana naman yung gusto ng mga tao matupad naman.
I hope what people ask for get
sa affordable housing situation problem.
When it comes to affordable housing issue.
Hindi tayo makapag-depende sa federal government.
We cannot depend on the federal government.
Makapag-depende kami sa inyo, supervisors.
But we depend on you, supervisors.
Yung kaming pamilya,
our family,
kailangan ng affordable housing.
We need affordable housing.
Para naman sa katarungan at katotohanan.
We need affordable housing for justice and for the truth.
Kasi sa mga kinukuha nilang kurso sa eskwela,
Because my children are studying.
Ay yun ang parang tool to progress para umasenso.
So that my family can establish successfully here.
Kung walang mga taong working class,
If there's no working class,
ang city ay mamamatay.
the city will die.
Ina-appreciate ko
I appreciate
ng marami.
I appreciate a lot
kung pakikinggan
if you can listen
yung tulong na hinihingi namin
if you can listen to the help that we're asking
para sa affordable housing.
for affordable housing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you all.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. Tess Wellborn from the Haight-Ashbury Neighborhood Council. I support all of the comments you've heard about 25% affordable. It's okay to add on an increment for over 25% for the higher middle income people if you want to. That's fine. But before you go ahead with this legislation, there's a few other things that should be addressed. One, there should be the study that was talked about for the Tenderloin District. Do that for the whole city so that we have targeted areas for increased housing, not just anywhere that a developer wants to do. No displacement of local business. No lot mergers. Minimum unit sizes. A full conditional use review at the planning department and appealable to the board. Displacement is resulting in raising the AMI, so we're just increasing poverty in San Francisco, and as you heard, new jobs are going for low wages. The restaurants are complaining they can't get help. Besides these things, and I want to reemphasize the study that to identify appropriate places, we need to protect our small businesses in San Francisco that have been proven over and over to be job creators. They are not only local people, but they employ local people. Finally, I would ask you to put pressure on the mayor, who is sponsoring this legislation, to put pressure on other Bay Area cities and the MTC to produce housing there. Where they produce jobs, they should house their own people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
I'm Lodashi Fong, and I'm a member with Tess of D5 Action. We were lucky 35 years ago, after renting for 2 years, to get a co-op apartment in St. Francis Square, started by the Longshoremen's Union. So I'm here to speak to public land, the issue brought up by my City College friend, being privatized, and that being a causal factor in people being pushed out, displaced from everywhere else. I've seen it at the state level when the State Lands Commission, on which sits our former mayor, transfers land title from UC to a private developer. I'm seeing it again in the Hunters Point Shipyard and in Treasure Island, and now our own co-op and the rest of Western Addition. HUD legislation expired a couple of years ago. I was at the the Chamber of Commerce breakfast when Oz Erickson said, let's rezone the Western Addition. Across the street from us, the Kabuki Hotel is now owned by Blackstone. I'm watching private management take over the King and Garvey complexes. Related has made moves on several of the housing co-ops like Freedom West and Frederick Douglass Haynes. Larimar now manages the HUD apartments on McAllister. So I would suggest we keep public land for affordable housing. Other countries and jurisdictions, Montreal has affordable family housing for single mothers with 8 children. And Stockholm has something called social housing. San Francisco can make a breakthrough against these real estate developers who think they have free reign through Spur, Bay Area Council, and now
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Sean Richard. I'm the executive director of organization Brothers Against Guns and the vice president of the NAACP. I'm here to support and help ask you guys to look into the affordable housing. I grew up in San Francisco in the Western Addition in public housing, and I have seen many changes in the Western Addition. And a lot of my friends that work for Muni, work for the school district, work for nonprofits, have been forced out to move to other cities because they cannot afford to live in San Francisco, regardless of their pay rate or how much income they make. We have to understand that we have to look at San Francisco as a model city and do the right thing. As supervisors, we know that you guys can push this legislation and make it happen to where folks in San Francisco that comes to these hearings, that you guys say that you care about this city and care about the people who voted for you guys to support our needs and our efforts of making sure that we have affordable housing for the residents of San Francisco. It is very difficult for folks to live in San Francisco that make less or more, that they're right in the middle and they cannot afford to live in San Francisco. We have to understand that it's kind of, in a way, a good thing that this has been pushed back, in the kind of way it is not, because we need to move on this and make this happen for the people of San Francisco so that we can have affordable housing and folks that live in San Francisco that is under the market rate or above the market rate that can afford to stay here in this city and county of San Francisco. So I'm saying to you guys, as Board of Supervisors, we support you guys, we elect you guys, but we ask you guys to stand with us and support us on this Affordable Housing Act and making sure that at all costs and all levels that you guys meet the needs of the residents of San Francisco. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Nancy Makowski. I'm a faculty member at City College of San Francisco. I teach ESL, and often I teach at night. I'm watching my students either move.
Keep going. Don't worry.
Okay, I'm going to keep it short, I promise. I'm watching my students either have to move away and not come back or commute from as far as Richmond and Vallejo to jobs that our city needs and then come to class at night and get done at 9 o'clock and then have to make that trip home and come back first thing in the morning. These jobs are what keeps our economy going in San Francisco, and it's the same with my faculty colleagues. And with working people, union people all over the city are having to leave and commute long distances just to be able to make a living here. So all I really want to say is I don't even know why we have to be here today. We had a hard-fought election with lots of money coming in from the developers. Prop C won by, if I remember correctly, 75%, and Prop U to raise the requirements to 110% lost by, I think, about 65%, opposed it, and 35% supported it. So I don't even understand why I have to be here. The people have spoken, really, and I hope that the Board of Supervisors will respect it, even if the mayor doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Charlie Shamas. I'm here speaking on behalf of people organizing to demand environmental and economic rights, and we are opposed to the proposal to reduce the affordable housing requirements. I'm trying to imagine what might have happened if the sponsors of this legislation had gone to various community stakeholders and said, we're thinking of reducing the overall pie, and we're thinking of forcing low and moderate income people to fight each other for a diminishing piece of the pie. I'm not aware of such a meeting that happened in my district, District 11, and if so, it surely occurred without the participation of many of the community members and organizations that have been advocating for equitable development and policy solutions to prevent displacement. Under this proposal, more than half of the new housing dedicated to low-income working households could be taken away. Families earning less than $59,000, of whom there are many in our city's hourglass economy, would be half as likely to be able to find a place to stay. This proposal risks displacing more members of our community, sending them outside of the city, and pushing more vulnerable residents onto the street. These contradictions are front and center in District 11. Earlier this year, many of us were appalled by the sobering reality of over 30 individuals that had made a home out of the basement of a laundromat. They had been there for 10 years or more, including elders, working men, and a child. No windows, no ventilation, just a labyrinth of makeshift partitions. When the city learned of this, all the tenants were evicted through no fault of their own. The city looked to the BMR program to provide affordable housing options, but none were found, and they are now in shelters. Just down the street is a proposed development at 65 Ocean where 2 preschools are being displaced and market rate housing is proposed. Under this proposal, developers would be getting a break, having to produce lower overall BMR units. Much less affordable housing would be created for both low-income and moderate-income residents than the current requirements. So while we're putting hardworking people out on the streets or into shelters 1 block away, we are building market rate housing and reducing the requirements to create affordable units.
Thank you very much, sir. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Gabriel Medina. I'm with Mission Economic Development Agency, and I wanted to bring a little bit extra data for context for these 2 proposals. First of all, voters voted for a 25% inclusionary rate. A vote lower than that is a broken contract with the voters. Prop C was a deal negotiated based on a false premise about feasibility of developers on a citywide scale, not housability of majority of San Franciscans. So we want to make sure that we can follow through with the will of the voter. I want to show you a slide about neighborhood area median incomes, and that's too big. But each neighborhood is different. One size fits all does not work. In fact, this Prop C, the way it went through was really something the mission gave away a lot for units under 25, for grandfathering thousands of units that are coming down the pipeline. The mission has successfully negotiated 3 past deals that have over 25%. So it is feasible for developers to do this. In fact, they have done it because in sensitive neighborhoods like the mission, those units are selling for way more than market. And to give them a less burden of inclusionary is basically a $60 million giveaway so they can continue to sell units without having to bear the brunt of the profits they are making in these neighborhoods. I also want to show you an important slide about income levels for our mission neighborhood families. And it'll show you that essentially the top line is that 90% of our households earn less than $50,000 a year. That's less than 45% AMI. So if you are not taking consideration where the majority, the housability of neighborhoods and San Francisco are, you're not taking consideration of reality or taking consideration of developer needs. Finally, in terms of middle-income housing development, the low-income housing development has a much higher deficit, 6,343 units not built versus 5,471 units not built in the last RENA adjustment. So please.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello. I'm here to speak in favor of adjusting the inclusionary housing. Let me be clear that speaking in favor of adjusting the inclusionary housing means below 55%, not 55 and above. 55% and above had never really included my family. My husband and I had never ever made more than $50,000 in 1 year in our entire working life. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Otto Duffy. I am a low-income housing provider, among other things. I appreciate the effort that you've been putting into homelessness and affordable housing. I appreciate the fact that you're going to take a little bit longer to look at this a little bit closer. I think it would behoove everyone if there was a broad consensus behind whatever eventually comes to the Board of Supervisors. I would imagine, especially given Prop C, and I don't want to maybe mention Prop P and U, maybe, I don't know, losing, I would imagine that there are going to be ramifications if it's a narrow vote, and I would think you'd want to avoid that. From my perspective, what I see out there in my world is that I think it would be really good if you could preserve the 15% at 55% affordable. And if you want to put another ring on top of that, say 5%, I know there's a point 25% or somewhere where you can't really go much higher. And I know this is not the only way to provide low-income and affordable housing, but, you can certainly go to 20%. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carmen Velez. And I have a simple story to tell you. I'm formerly a teacher and got laid off on 2010. And after that, I was very ill. And when I was ready to get a job, I was having a housing problem. And right now, I'm searching on a house. And it's almost like 1 year and a half, I can't find a place. So I'm here to voice out my problem that anybody who went to school and finished a degree any moment could be very, very poor and will be homeless very soon if we don't act quickly. My only request today is very simple, that I am urging the Board of Supervisors to follow the will of the voters and to use your power to meet the affordable housing for San Francisco residents, especially the low income, people with disability, and other people who are in the middle class. It's not for developer only who will earn good money. So please hear my story. I used to have 2 jobs. I have high credential in teaching. Due to illness, I cannot go back to work till the doctor will say yes. So please hear my story. I used to have 2 jobs, and please have a heart for people who voted for the affordable housing. We really need it very badly in this city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, board members. Peter Cohen, Council of Community Housing Organizations. You've heard much testimony today about the income targeting, so I won't repeat anything here. There's 2 very specific details that won't come any surprise. We've been working with Supervisor Tang and others about these, both for Home SF and inclusionary, that we would suggest you consider for the inclusionary ordinance when it comes up for final vote. One is what came out today in the Chronicles about this idea of capping the price of below market rate units. Since we're talking about a both low income and middle income program, middle income BMRs, below market units, can actually be so close to market rate housing in parts of the city that it doesn't become affordable housing any longer. So our suggestion is to build in a restriction that those below market units actually be below the market in each of the neighborhoods of the city. And it's actually fairly common practice of how developers market their units, but this would allow the city to actually adjust those BMRs to ensure that you're getting real affordable housing for real middle income folks who can't otherwise afford the local markets. And we can work with you on the details of that language for both Home SF and inclusionary. The second is that as you get into some of these middle-income units that are priced at 110 or 120 or 140% of the area median income, again, we're talking at a fairly high price point for rental or ownership. The way that BMRs work in the city is that there are household sizes. So if it's a single-person household or a 4-person household, you have a very different kind of unit and occupancy. Whereas a 120% rental unit for a single person will be an individual making $93,000 a year. Whereas if it's a couple, that will be $110,000 a year. So it's a very different kind of income. And our suggestion is that for those units at that upper end, you actually require them to be 2 or more occupants, families or couples. So we're not subsidizing $100,000 income.
Thanks very much. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak on items 2 or 3? Ma'am, please bring the microphone down here. Please.
Field votes in Tenderloin People's Congress and Solidarity. I am a senior on fixed income in San Francisco and feel that without inclusionary housing, I will be priced out of the San Francisco. San Francisco should be for everybody, not just catering to the highest income bracket. San Francisco has always been known for the diversity of its people. Seniors and low-income San Franciscans face many hardships, including Ellis Act evictions and less inclusionary housing if the Ed Lisa Fry proposal is passed. Seniors and low-income San Franciscans will get more inclusionary housing if the Kim Peskin proposal is passed. The displacement of low-income seniors and families is traumatic to families and seniors, and it destroys the fabric of the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public wish to comment on items 2 or 3? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Colleagues, unless we have at this point any other questions or comments on items 2 or 3, could I entertain a motion to continue items 2 or 3 for 1 week?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Peskin, and we can take that without objection. Madam Clerk, do we have any other business in front of us today?
That concludes our business for today.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.